Two arrests made in regards to a methamphetamine charge. Chief of Police Paul MacDonald is joining us now over the phone. Chief, what can you tell us about the story?
Yesterday morning, about 5:30 in the morning, Barnstable Fire Department responded to the area of 75 Perseverance Way regarding a young female who had suffered some kind of burns to her arm and her face. Upon their arrival and upon our arrival, the burns appeared a bit suspicious. The story they were telling us did not make sense to the police officers. They then decided to check the area. They did an extensive search of the wooded area. They found a small homeless camp about 150 yards into the woods. And once they were in there, they found several plastic bottles containing a greenish yellowish substance with tubing sticking out of it, with a strong odor of ammonia emanating from them. And also inside the camp itself, from their training experience, they recognized that immediately as to a shake and bake operation to produce methamphetamine. I know it was on the news earlier, and they mentioned in the paper today that it was a meth lab. It certainly did not rise to the level of a meth lab, but there certainly is a concern for us. The second time in a couple of months, Yarmouth PD had a similar incident on Bayview down behind the hospital last month, and now we have this incident here yesterday.
You know, one thing I'm thinking, Chief, is this isn't something we normally see. I mean, are you seeing... I at least, just from watching the news, reading the paper, I haven't noticed so many incidents of methamphetamine here on the Cape. Is this something you're seeing more often?
This is the third incident that I can think of in the past 3 years. Methamphetamine is a highly addictive drug that can be synthesized in a small-scale makeshift lab, is what we've seen. This is very common out in the Midwest, out in the West. It's probably the drug of choice out there. But up here in New England, you barely ever see it. About 2 years ago, we had a major investigation along with Falmouth PD, which started on Main Street hiatus amongst the homeless community, and they discovered they executed a search warrant in East Falmouth, and there was a significant meth lab down there. Then we had the second one in Yarmouth off of Bayview, and this is the third one. So, and the one common denominator in all of these makeshift labs is within the homeless community. It's kind of restricted to the homeless community for whatever reason. We think the main reason is it's relatively cheap to make.
You know, what concerns me so much about hearing this from you today, Chief, is I think that there's a very large risk when you have something of this nature. I think, isn't it, I mean, obviously this woman came in with burns, but isn't there a risk for explosion? And it's a pretty dangerous process, if I'm correct.
Once the police officers, realized what they had, they backed out of there. They formed an outer perimeter. They would not let anybody in or out of the area. We have to call the state police bomb squad because you're right, because there is a huge possibility for some type of incendiary device, some type of explosion to go off. We have to notify DEA. They come down with their clandestine desk lab team to actually clean up the entire area. We transported both individuals into the police department. Both of our crews, we had to call a company in last night. They worked on our cruises all night long to decontaminate the cruises and also decontaminate our cell block. Once two individuals were in here, we had to take their clothing and provide them with new clothing, and decontaminate them before we could bring them over to labs, bring them over to court. So yeah, this is a huge problem. If this spreads into this part of the country.
You know, what kind of charges will these individuals face? Because this isn't just distributing, right? Is this another charge, sort of above and beyond that?
Right. They've been charged with manufacturing of a Controlled B substance, also conspiracy to violate the Controlled Substances Act. So these are major felonies. They face up to 20 years imprisonment. Whether they get that, I don't know, because they have a small quantity. I mean, the way they're making this in the so-called shake and bake operation, you get a couple of these very common ingredients that you can buy anywhere, but with the right mixture, and if you shake it, it crystallizes and forms this crystal meth. And it takes about 2 hours, and the way they were doing it, they could probably produce 2 hours in about 40 minutes' time. But because they had a negative event where they didn't do it right, they had somewhat of a minor explosion within their camp, which caused these two individuals to get burned. But you're right, it is a huge problem.
Well, thank you for joining us today, telling us all about this incident and so much more. We really appreciate it, Chief, and look forward to chatting with you again next week.
I'll talk to you then, Sarah.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Our guest today, of course, Chief of Police Paul MacDonald.